Hi, I'm Cindy Palm, lay servant here at First United Methodist Church in downtown Elgin, Illinois, and this is your motivational moment from the Bible. Back when I was first digging around in the concept of minimalism, back when the initial purpose was to declutter my home, I noticed a word kept surfacing over and over. The word was intentional. The two guys whose plan and outline I was following used that word a lot. They talked about being intentional in your purchases, intentional in your choices and decisions, and intentional in how you lived your life. Initially, I would have told you that everything I did was intentional. I mean, seriously, I'm anything but a fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants kind of gal. I like order and structure. I like having a plan and working out all the details in advance so that I'm always fully prepared. I don't like being caught off guard. Isn't that being intentional? But the more I listened to these guys, as I absorbed exactly how and when that word was used, I soon realized that I was intentional about almost nothing. When I looked around at all the unnecessary clothing and clutter in my house, I realized that the fact that it was there wasn't intentional, it was emotional. When I thought about the food I ate, I realized I wasn't intentional about that either. It was impulsive. And life decisions? Oh, please. There was nothing intentional about that. I usually found myself bobbing along in the wave of expectations, following the road wherever it led, simply going wherever the river of life took me, instead of carving out an intentional path. Now, one could say that in order to be intentional, you have to know what it is that you want. But I'm not so sure that is always the case. I think that in order to be intentional, you may only need to know what you don't want. For me, that voice is far louder. You could say, well, Cindy, don't you mean discipline? Isn't that what you're talking about? Well, maybe. But intentional is such a powerful word, such a strong action. I mean, who wants to be disciplined when you can be intentional, right? I don't know, intentional people win gold medals. Intentional people are the ones who write books and paint great works of art and solve world problems and create vaccines and live their lives exactly the way they want to because they made intentional choices every step of the way. So what does this have to do with faith? I asked you yesterday if your faith was where you wanted it to be. Maybe today I can ask, is your life where you want it to be? I mean, let's be honest. I think faith is hard. It's a concept that definitely sounds easier on paper than it actually is in practice. But that's because life gets in the way. Oh, we all have good intentions. See what I just did there? But too often, our good intentions fall through the cracks until the next, yeah, I gotta do that moment occurs. Oh, I know. Happens to me all the time. Speaking of cracks, remember the parable we talked about yesterday? Farmer was out scattering seeds. Some seeds fell on a path and the birds came and ate it. Some seeds fell on a rocky ground and managed to grow a bit, but soon withered and died due to lack of water. Some seeds fell among thorns and came up just fine until the weeds choked out the plants. Still, some seeds fell on good soil, were attended to daily, and grew into a crop that was 100 times more than what was sown. Yeah, faith is hard. But I think that's the point. It's like a muscle. If you want results, you have to do the work. Let me tell you about my husband, Chris. He works a normal day job, but he's also an artist. For many years, Chris would draw here and there, as time permitted, as the mood struck, doodling out whatever came to mind. He was very random about it, and sometimes weeks would go by where he didn't draw at all. Then suddenly he discovered Elgin was slowly turning into an artistic community. Local artists were coming to Elgin to create art. Galleries were opening and opportunities were popping up everywhere. It was an exciting time, and Chris knew that if he wanted to be a part of it, it was going to require a change in how he approached his art. He was going to need to be intentional if he wanted to be in the game. So he went from doing random drawings to working on his art almost daily. He carved out time in his day and made it a priority. He soon discovered that working on his art was having a calming effect and became essential to his overall well-being. And he got better, stronger, and more creative because he was tapping into parts of himself that he had never explored before. Your relationship with God is the same way. If you want it to grow, you need to be intentional. You can't just take a hit and miss approach and expect it to grow. If you want results, you have to do the work. And it's work worth doing. I don't have any tattoos, but I hear that once you get one, you want more. For some reason, they are addictive. Growing your relationship with God is the same way. Once you start, you won't be able to get enough. It becomes addictive, and you want more. Because as you become filled with the Holy Spirit, you begin to realize how truly empty you really are. Like someone has just handed you a bottle of cool water after walking through the desert. Be assured, God meets you right where you are, and He loves you just as you are. But think on this. Imagine what it would feel like to have a life-giving, joy-overflowing abundance of intentional faith. I'm Cindy Palm, and this has been your Motivational Moment from the Bible.